Elden Ring, man, this game, you guys. I did that review in progress video where I was 55 hours into the game. I'm about 100 hours in now. I'm still not fully done. I'm close to the end, but still plenty of side content to do. And I stand by everything I said in that review in terms of the compliments that I gave the game. If anything, 100 hours in, my experience has only gotten better, with the game continuously surprising me with new discoveries, cool new enemies, and just an incredible open world design where it doesn't feel like the developers are telling you where to go and, checking off a list. It feels like discovery happens organically, and that's the thing that Elden Ring captures so beautifully. And many critics agree as well, with a 97% Metascore, one of the top-rated games of all time. I believe it's top 10 at this point in terms of Metacritic. Now, it is worth acknowledging that there are some performance issues in terms of micro stutters and occasional, slowing down and fast-forwarding situations, which can be especially detrimental during boss battles and combat situations, which is why the user score is a little lower than expected, but it's fair criticism. Definitely those issues are there. But that one blemish aside, for me, I feel this is one of the best games I've ever played, especially if you're a fan of Soulsborne type of games. If you're not a fan of Souls-style combat and difficulty and challenge, this still may not be for you, but man, for those who kind of get into it, I feel like you're going to have an amazing time. But beyond the overwhelmingly positive critical reception, this game has taken off in terms of sales. Commercially, it's done incredibly well. It's proven to be hugely popular among the gaming community. For a lot of people, Elden Ring is going to be their first foray and entry into the Soulsborne subgenre of games. This game has sold massively, and it's breaking a number of records. So let's start by looking at this tweet from Daniel Ahmad, who said that on day one, the peak concurrent players on Steam had reached a whopping 765,000 concurrent players versus Dark Souls 3's 130,000 and Sekiro's 125,000. And numbers were equally impressive in terms of Twitch viewership. This is one of the most watchable games because you get to watch people die and suffer over and over and over again until they overcome that challenge, and they're filled with that sense of joy and pride and accomplishment. Oh man. But an actual sense of pride and accomplishment. When it comes to Twitch viewership, 910,000 peak concurrent viewers. And to give you an idea for what a big deal that 765,000 peak concurrent players is for Elden Ring, we're talking about roughly 6 times the numbers that Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro pulled. So you can already garner just how many more copies this game likely sold compared to those titles. And you can see this yourself if you go to websites like Steam Charts and other pages that keep track of concurrent players on Steam. So if you go to Steam Charts right now, you'll see that the all-time peak is sitting at 823,524 players. And yes, Elden Ring did surpass its day one all-time peak during the weekend. It tends to be that a game peaks on day one and then the numbers slowly start to fall from there. But Elden Ring saw a big surge during the weekend. Even right now, almost 600,000 people are playing in the past 2 hours, and the 24-hour peak continues to be incredibly strong in the over 800,000 range. Numbers look even more impressive in other Steam concurrent player count websites like Steam Count, where the all-time peak is sitting at 887,815. And again, you can see that on day one, it started at almost 800,000, sort of in the mid 700,000s, and then that climbed to 887,000 over the weekend on February 27th in particular. And then here we have steamdb.info, where the all-time peak is sitting at 891,638. And once again, we started off at like mid 700,000s, and that climbed to almost 900,000 players on February 27th. Just insane numbers for a single player. And to give you some perspective as to how big these numbers are, if we go to Steam Charts and look at the top games by concurrent players, right now Elden Ring is sitting at number 3, only behind Lost Ark and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And in terms of all-time record, Elden Ring is sitting pretty comfortably at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is the 7th most played game on Steam in terms of all-time peak concurrent players. That is not an easy feat to accomplish. It's behind Cyberpunk 2077, and the numbers aren't even too far off. And Cyberpunk 2077, you may recall, was one of the most hyped games of all time. This figure is further corroborated by SteamDB, where if you look at the most played games of all time by all-time peak concurrent players, Elden Ring here on this website also sits at number 7, and it's not too far behind major releases like Cyberpunk 2077 and New World. What these numbers indicate is that Elden Ring has probably sold incredibly well and probably shattered Bandai Namco's own expectations and From Software's own expectations. In fact, let's take a look at some of the latest data released. Here's Games Industry's article noting how Elden Ring is the biggest non-FIFA or Call of Duty launch since Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this is all data from the UK. I'm very curious to eventually see what that data looks like in the US, how well Elden Ring fared in America. But in the UK, this game has been doing incredibly well, with Elden Ring sales being 2.5 times that of last week's big new release, PlayStation's Horizon Forbidden West. Now, to be fair, Horizon Forbidden West did launch exclusively on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, whereas Elden Ring is a multi-platform title that's out on PlayStation consoles, Xbox consoles, and PC. But that doesn't make Elden Ring's latest sales data and just how many players have flooded into this game any less impressive. And the fact that it is the biggest game launch outside of Call of Duty and FIFA franchises since Red Dead Redemption 2 in October of 2018 in the UK, that is no small feat to accomplish. And specifically in the UK, Week 1 sales were bigger than Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Well, I'm curious to see what overall worldwide sales will look like compared to Cyberpunk 2077. It looks like overall sales for the game may not be too far off from what Cyberpunk 2077 accomplished, especially given that all-time peak concurrent players approach Cyberpunk 2077 are not too far off from that game's figures. Now, the article does note that Nintendo doesn't share digital data, so there's some potential context and perspective missing there. A Nintendo title might have sold more than Elden Ring, and we may not know about it because Nintendo isn't transparent about that information, but with all said and done, Elden Ring is still among the best-selling games this year and one of the best-selling games ever, it would seem. Figures are broken down further in terms of digital versus physical sales. Digital downloads accounted for over 68% of Elden Ring sales. Doesn't surprise me anymore. Digital sales have been on the rise. People have been buying digital more and more with each passing year because of the convenience, but there's still a good amount of people who still buy physical. Xbox and PC were the biggest digital platforms, specifically digital sales. 85% of Elden Ring sales on Xbox were downloaded, and on PC was 73%. For PS5 and PS4, the sales were just over 50% digital and a little under 50% physical. And then in terms of overall sales numbers, both digital and physical, that breaks down as follows. 32% of sales were on PlayStation 5, 30% on PC, 29% on Xbox, and 9% on PS4. So relatively even distribution of sales across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. In Japan, Elden Ring has also been performing particularly well. According to the Siliconera article, PS4 and PS5 sales of Elden Ring in Japan have topped 278,507 units, and that does not take into account sales on PC, and I'd say Xbox, but Japan doesn't really buy Xbox, so that number's probably relatively small, but would contribute to the overall sales numbers in Japan on some level. But yeah, these are pretty big numbers for Japan, and according to Nibel here, this is From Software's strongest first week of all time, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe he is. This is yet to be disputed. All we're missing now is sales figures for the biggest market, the US, and I have a pretty good feeling that sales numbers are going to be just as impressive here and on a number of different markets where this game will prove to be quite popular. And it's funny looking back at this article from November of 2021, which talked about how Bandai Namco expected that Elden Ring would sell 4 million units in its first 5 weeks. I think they way lowballed this figure. I wouldn't be surprised if this game managed to sell 4 million units within the first couple of days of launch. In 5 weeks, those figures are likely going to look way higher, likely in the tens of millions if I'm being honest. This is all further helped by just how much buzz Elden Ring has been generating on social media and forums, be it because of memeable in-game messages like "Behold dog" and "Try finger, but hole," or "Behold two-handing," or because of crazy moments people are sharing in Elden Ring, be it discoveries that they made, or enemy encounters that went in crazy directions. It's buzz that's no doubt generating more and more curiosity and interest surrounding this game. You know, in this day and age, it's so easy to get bogged down by all of the bad news surrounding the games industry and all of the unfortunate, disastrous launches of highly anticipated AAA games whose full potential aren't realized because publishers are more concerned about rushing games to launch and fixing them later to meet financial quotas instead of respecting the art of gaming, respecting customers and communities who want these games to succeed but are being less tolerant of broken launches and game releases that don't meet baseline quality standards for the $60, $70 plus that people are paying. So it's just so refreshing to see a game like Elden Ring come out and be not only one of the best rated games of all time, and in my opinion, one of the best games ever made, at least one of my personal favorite games of all time, but also to see it perform incredibly well and show that, you know, amidst the garbage out there in terms of what's going on in the gaming landscape, there are still plenty of beacons of light and games that highlight that there's still plenty of good stuff out there. And I'm just glad to see that Elden Ring is doing so well. It deserves all of its success. From Software, you know, has been climbing this hill for so many years. They finally hit their stride with the Soulsborne genre, subgenre that they sort of accidentally established. And Elden Ring really feels like their peak accomplishment, their magnum opus. And I can only hope that their success continues, that their integrity remains intact in the coming years, and that they continue to push the boundaries of their imagination, because, man, Elden Ring, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It really blew me away. It's still blowing me away 100 hours in. Games like these remind me why I fell in love with video games, why I cover video games, why this is my favorite medium. As much as I love all of the other mediums out there, there's just something special about video games, and Elden Ring for me was a very special experience. Though, man, I've got to say, I don't know how they're going to top themselves with Elden Ring, but I mean, if anyone can do it, it's FromSoft. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything you need to know about Elden Ring's sales performance and how it's resonating with players, how many people are playing it, and how it's doing in terms of sales charts and concurrent players. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Elden Ring as a game. Are you enjoying it? Is it not for you? Do you think it deserves its accolades? Are you happy to see that Elden Ring has taken off? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.